In 2025, renewable energy generated more electricity than coal, for the first time in history. In medicine, doctors can now effectively treat newborn babies for malaria, something that was impossible until this year. Dozens of endangered animal species are recovering around the world. And the Pacific just got a marine protected area half the size of China. I'm Freddy, this is good news, and this is our biggest episode of the year, as we are looking at the biggest wins of 2025. Our first story brings incredible news for the planet. For the first time ever, renewable energy generated more electricity than coal globally. Between January and June, renewables supplied over 5,000 terawatt-hours worldwide, surpassing coal for the first time. China and India drove most of this shift, despite rising energy demand from economic growth. China's solar grew by 43% and wind by 16%, compared to last year. Despite coal still being the largest energy source at 58%, renewables have expanded rapidly. And India saw even bigger renewable jumps. Wind and solar increased by 29% and 31%. This helped the country reduce coal and gas use by over 3%. All of this pushed the world past another big milestone. More than 40% of global electricity now comes from low-carbon sources. Europe played a major role in hitting that milestone. Data released this year shows the European Union already generated 71% of its electricity from clean sources in 2024, with solar accounting for 11%, surpassing coal for the first time as well. Just to put the scale of solar into perspective, global solar generation is now large enough to power all of India. And here's even more good news. Coal phase-outs accelerated across Europe. In June, Ireland shut down its last coal-fired power plant, 6 months ahead of schedule. The Moneypoint plant had powered the country for nearly 4 decades. Closing it made Ireland one of 8 European countries to completely eliminate coal. So, how did they replace all of that power? Renewables were already growing rapidly. This past July, wind supplied 24% of Ireland's electricity. The same month, solar broke all previous records too, hitting 798 megawatts from grid-connected farms and covering close to 6% of demand. And Ireland wasn't the only European country reaching big milestones this year. Finland shut down its Helsinki coal plant in April, 4 years ahead of schedule. Just like Ireland, wind power made it possible. Since 2020, Finland's wind generation has more than doubled, and now supplies a quarter of the country's electricity. Over the same period, coal generation dropped significantly. Finland had already reduced coal to less than 3% of their electricity mix by 2020. And last year, it dropped to less than 1%. With these countries, and others doing the same, Europe's coal era is rapidly coming to an end. Okay, and now from global energy milestones to helping families. Australia and New Mexico both delivered major financial relief this year. In Australia, the government made history by wiping out $10.5 billion in student debt overnight, affecting 3 million people. If you had HELP or HELP debt, 20% just vanished. No forms, no waiting, the law automatically slashed everyone's higher education loans by 20%. For someone with the typical $18,000 loan, that means $3,600 less to pay back. And across the Pacific, New Mexico just made history for American families. As of November, it became the first US state to offer free childcare for everyone, no matter the family's income. Families are now saving an average of $12,000 per year. To fund the program, New Mexico tapped into their Land Grant Permanent Fund. This fund invests revenue from oil and gas extraction on state-owned land, money that's been building up for decades. Beyond the savings, the program created 5,000 new childcare jobs, with workers earning at least $18 per hour. For the first time in US history, an entire state made childcare completely free for everyone. And in the Pacific, we got to celebrate the creation of the world's largest marine protected area. In June, French Polynesia created the world's largest marine protected area, nearly 5 million square kilometers of ocean. To put that into perspective, it's 1.5 times the size of India and could swallow the entire European Union. President Moetai Brotherson made the announcement at the UN Ocean Conference. The protected area covers their entire territorial waters. Over 1 million square kilometers received the highest level, roughly 4 times the size of the UK. In this core zone, only traditional coastal fishing, ecotourism and scientific research are allowed. And across the entire sanctuary, 2 destructive practices were banned completely. The first is deep-sea mining. That's when the seafloor gets dug up for minerals, destroying ocean life and harming marine species with noise and habitat damage. The second is bottom trawling. That's when fishing boats drag massive nets across the seafloor and wipe out coral reefs, sponges and seafloor habitats. This is particularly significant given the nation's size, because French Polynesia represents less than 0.01% of the world's global GDP. Yet they are now protecting one of the planet's largest ocean areas. They even committed to adding another 500,000 square kilometers to the protected zones in 2026. That's roughly the size of Spain. Small countries are taking big responsibility for the planet's future. And the good news for our planet didn't stop in the oceans. 2025 saw major wins for forest protection around the world. In March, the Democratic Republic of Congo created something extraordinary. A green corridor stretching over 2,400 kilometers, connecting 2 major national parks. This became the planet's largest protected tropical forest reserve. The Congo Basin is home to thousands of species, and over 60 million people live there who depend on the forest for food, heating, energy and jobs. This project is funded by the DRC government, the European Union, private foundations and international partners. Up in Canada, 21 indigenous nations across the Northwest Territories secured $375 million to protect an area twice the size of Florida. And in Central America, Guatemala, Mexico and Belize signed an official agreement for the Great Maya Corridor, the second largest tropical rainforest reserve in the Americas. The region spans over 55,000 square kilometers, slightly larger than Slovakia or roughly the size of West Virginia. For decades, this jungle has been controlled by criminal gangs using it for drug smuggling. But the project is now offering local communities alternatives, like paying them to grow fruits and timber. And the impact reaches far beyond people. More than 7,000 animal species are also benefiting from this project. All of this environmental progress is great, but tracking the actual impact has always been the hard part. Until 2025. For years, tracking global emissions meant relying on slow and outdated data. Countries would measure their carbon output and then publish the numbers a year or 2 later. By the time anyone could act on them, the information was already outdated. But that finally changed in 2025. Climate Trace launched the world's first real-time emissions tracking system. Using satellites, AI and ground sensors, the platform monitors over 660 million emission sources across the planet. Power plants, factories, farms, shipping ports, all of it. The data updates every 60 days. And we can already see the difference it makes. Global transportation emissions hit 7.1 billion tons in the first 9 months of 2025. And China's total emissions during the same period reached nearly 13 billion tons. Before Climate Trace, getting those numbers would have taken another 1 or 2 years. Cities can now track their progress and adjust policies in real time. And it's completely free. Anyone can look up emissions from their city or check specific industries. In 2025, real-time climate data just became accessible to everyone. And speaking of environmental progress, 2025 brought some major wins for endangered animals around the world. Sea turtles showed promising signs of recovery. An analysis of 48 populations revealed that threats to the species are declining in more than half of the studied areas. Green sea turtles are thriving. Stricter protection of nesting beaches and efforts to reduce accidental bycatch over the past few decades are the main reasons why. In South America, another threatened species bounced back. The El Rincon stream frog can only be found in this tiny 10 square kilometer region in Argentina. Habitat loss and invasive species pushed it to critically endangered in the early 2000s. Conservationists therefore bred frogs in captivity, released them into the wild and removed invasive trout. Since 2018, their population of 4,500 has increased by 15%. Meanwhile, in India, the Asiatic lion population grew by over 30% in just 4.5 years. These lions only exist in Gujarat's Gir forest. By the end of the 19th century, hunting had left only about a dozen alive. But hard work restoring their habitat paid off. The latest count put their total at almost 900 lions, up from 674 in 2020. And there were other conservation wins too. The world's smallest snake was rediscovered in Barbados after 20 years. Blue iguanas on Grand Cayman Island bounced back from near extinction. A gecko species thought extinct on a Galapagos island turned out to be alive and recovering. The Livingstone's fruit bed moved from critically endangered to just endangered. But of course, work remains. The IUCN Red List shows that many animal species are endangered, and a lot more conservation still needs to be done. But as you can see, there's reason for hope. In 2025, we have once again discovered amazing new species as well. 3 types of methane-eating spiders were found 900 meters deep in the ocean. But maybe one of the century's biggest animal welfare victories came from an unexpected industry: fashion. Global fur production collapsed. In 2014, over 140 million animals were farmed and killed for fur. 10 years later, that number has now dropped to 20.5 million. Major fashion brands dropped fur from their collections, and countries across Europe banned fur farming. In my opinion, it's one of the biggest animal welfare wins of the century. And before I tell you about the best medical news of 2025, I want to thank all of you for your great support this year. Good News gained over 250,000 subscribers this year, and all of your comments like this one make us really happy. If you want to support us and not miss any good news in 2026, make sure to subscribe. And now, let's take a look at the medical world. Just as we are making progress for animals, we've also seen major medical breakthroughs in 2025. Malaria kills around 600,000 people every year, with most victims being children under 5 years in Africa. Those numbers are hard to hear. But there's finally some good news. This year brought a major breakthrough for these children. For the first time, newborn babies have a malaria treatment specifically made for them. Switzerland's drug regulator approved the world's first anti-malarial drug for infants under 2 months old. Before this, doctors had limited options for treating newborns. They had to improvise with adult-sized doses or improvised half measures. There was simply no approved treatment designed for babies this young. The new drug finally solves this problem. Clinical trials proved it works safely and effectively for newborns under 2 months old. In October, Ghana became the first malaria endemic country to actually launch the treatment. Following Switzerland's approval, other countries can now fast-track the drug, which now just takes 90 days instead of years. So far, 8 African countries are participating, including Kenya, Nigeria and Tanzania. And approvals are expected soon in these countries. After decades of improvising with adult-sized doses, the tiniest patients finally have medicine made just for them. And the medical wins kept coming. Doctors just achieved something that seemed impossible. For the first time, Huntington's disease has been successfully treated. This genetic condition affects 41,000 people in the US alone. It combines symptoms of dementia, Parkinson's and motor problems, typically appearing in people's 30s or 40s. Before this breakthrough, the disease was usually fatal within 2 decades. But now, doctors can treat it through gene therapy. Here's how it works. During brain surgery, they inject modified genetic material directly into affected areas. This material stops cells from producing the toxic proteins that cause the disease. And this treatment showed really good results. In patients who received it, disease progression slowed by 75%, giving them many more healthy years to live. Patients expected to lose mobility stayed walking. And medical science didn't stop there. Brain tumor patients usually wait weeks for their test results to come back from the lab. Researchers at the University of Nottingham now changed that. Their new method delivers results in 90 minutes. The technique uses rapid genetic sequencing. It lets doctors examine tumor DNA while the patient is still in surgery. So far, it's been used in around 50 operations, with perfect accuracy in identifying tumor types. And this speed matters enormously. Surgeons can now make critical treatment decisions immediately, instead of waiting weeks. This gives patients with aggressive tumors a much better chance. Making cancer treatment more convenient was another major step forward this year. One of the most widely used cancer drugs is now available as a quick injection. It's an immunotherapy that helps the immune system to recognize and attack cancer cells. Since 2014, it's been approved to treat over 40 different types of tumors. But until now, patients had to travel to specialized infusion centers and sit through 30-minute IV trips just to receive it. For people already fighting cancer, this wasn't just inconvenient. It also tied up limited hospital resources and the time of the medical team. But the new version changes all of that. Millions of cancer patients can now get their treatment in about 1 minute with a quick injection. It can be given in far more places, from major hospitals to local clinics, making the treatment a lot less disruptive to daily life. Clinical trials showed the injection works just as well as the IV version, with no difference in effectiveness. And this isn't just an isolated case. Other major cancer drugs made similar switches earlier this year. Using the same injection method, treatment times now drop to just 5 to 7 minutes. We saw the world's largest protected forest created, diseases once thought incurable finally being treated, and renewable energy surpassing coal globally. After all, 2025 was quite a good year. Which of these good news stories did you like the most? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and here's to an even better 2026. Bye bye!